One thing for certain is like the overusage of pesticides and synthetic fertilizer. I know that even can come, I'm sitting on an airplane to Europe in July and like talking to somebody and they're like, oh, well, the overuse of pesticides, like that must be very hard in agriculture. For starters, we really don't want to use any more pesticides than we have to, absolutely has to. And same with fertilizer. We don't want to use any more than we have to because it's costly. Also, we really want to look at an integrated approach to how we apply these, especially like things like insecticide. Like we are part of the pest monitoring program, so we make sure that we have the insects monitored on our property. We follow the guidelines as far as when insect populations get high or the insect thresholds, and we apply to the right rate at the right time, because we know that we need to make sure that we're maintaining a healthy ecosystem, and spraying out every insect is not going to be beneficial to us in the long term. And same with weed control. Like we're not going to do something that is not necessary for the protection of our crop and our economic benefit as well.
A big misconception when it comes to applying chemical is that we actually go and apply chemical directly onto the seed. That's rarely what occurs. We apply chemical before the plant's even up. We'll to control the weeds, then we'll apply it when it's at before the flag leaf. So that's still when the crop is less than 6 inches tall, and when the seed is actually set. It's rare that we're actually ever applying a fungicide or anything to that seed where it's going to be harvested within 30 days. Generally, any of the chemical we apply, it's months before we actually take that crop off. All producers are running businesses, and the bottom line is really important. When consumers see big industrial sprayers out in the fields, they think that they're applying 100% of that is chemical. The reality is only about 0.5% is actually chemical. The rest is water as a carrier, and it's expensive. That 0.5% is very expensive, and we are trying to reduce our expenses any way possible. So generally, we're only going to be applying a chemical if it's required. So yes, we have to control the weeds or they will take over the fields. We have to control diseases or they'll take over.
Lots of people ask me, well, is your crop sprayed with glyphosate? Is it desiccated, or do you use herbicides on your crops? And my response is, yeah, I spray herbicides on my crop early in the season, but I try not to use any desiccation, because why would I do that? People don't want it, but it's also not beneficial unless I got a serious weed issue that I need to deal with, and that's the only way to deal with it. I try not to use herbicides unless absolutely necessary, because they're extremely expensive.
Know your farmer for sure, but I think there's so many myths out there about what farms are doing. You'll see pictures of like full suits when you're spraying all white, and it's like, that's not what is happening on our farm. When we go to spray a field, it's a very small amount of chemical that goes on our field with a lot of water. And so I think people just have a misconception about any of that.
We're very careful not to use herbicides that have residual that are going to be detrimental to the soils or to the crops. So everything has to be kept in balance, and it's the farmer's job to manage that and to understand that.
We're not out there blanket applying if we don't have to. Trust us. Just like how you're not going to go and putting premium gas in your car and you're not going to get any more power or range out of that tank of gas, you're not going to do it. Farmers are no different. We are trying to go and get the best job done with the least amount of cost.
Some of the challenges that I think through even in my own mind are just the incredible risk that there is when prices of commodities have again recently dropped. Input costs are expensive, land prices are continuing to climb. Just day-to-day living is costing more and more. And so there's a far larger element of risk when you don't know what kind of crop you're going to get after 4 months of seeding, and wondering if we're going to get enough rain or if it's going to be too much rain, and that we have a reduced crop yield as a result of it.
So I really feel as farms get bigger and there's less people involved in agriculture, the ability for producers to take those risks as far as trying those new practices, the ability isn't there as much as it maybe used to be.
As a conventional grain farmer, we do a lot of practices the public is a little bit unsure of. We need to share why we do things, what we do, there's a reason for everything we do. Most of these things are actually expensive. They cost a lot of money to do, so we don't do them recreational. We do them for benefit of our soils and benefit of our crops.
Also, I think the perspective of farmers that farmers aren't intelligent, I think that's a myth that really needs to be broken, because how many people do you know in this world that can have such a multifaceted skill set? Like you have a farmer who can fix computer equipment in his sprayer, he can fix the motor in his sprayer, he knows what soil health is, what macro micronutrients are, he knows about what fertility is growing that crop, he knows about how different livestock react to different plants. They are truly multifaceted people because they have to be. And I think there needs to be more recognition in the public of just the multifaceted approach that our industry has. You have to be a master of all sorts of things.
We also need conversations with everyday people, and so I think having them come on our farm to, see some beauty, we also get to talk to them about why our crop looks so great and how much we're producing and about our other crops on the farm. And I think that that's a really positive thing for agriculture.
I think there's a lot of stereotypes in food, and I think food is like a connection to people. You connect, it doesn't matter what culture you are, you connect with food. And I think the media hasn't done us any favors in agriculture, but also we're not very good at tooting our own horn and telling people how wonderful they are, because we're too busy working. We're too busy trying to get things accomplished in a short amount of time that we're not really good at being like, yeah, we're awesome, we're doing amazing things, and we also are working on a limited budget. We don't have a budget to promo our industry like some other sectors do too.
Really, I just wish people knew how much work it took to plant, to grow, to harvest their food, and how much work is put into a crop worldwide to get that, into your flour, to make your bread, to make your noodles. To put the food on your plate, on your table. It's very important for the public to know where their food comes from.
Farmers are important. We produce food not only for ourselves but for everyone. And so what we need is just to continue to send out the message. The communication and the message needs to be the same. Farmers are important.